Hey everybody, welcome back to Ready Steady Play, where we're about to run down Village Attacks, the game we just finished playing. It's for the fans. Thanks to all 10 of you watching out there who stuck with us through this entire adventure, where we were monsters, and now we're not. Because we finished the adventure. Now we're just people hanging out.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Man, am I hungry.
Hungry for blood.
As a banshee, I think I'm hungry for souls?
Yeah, maybe.
He's hungry for blood.
I'm
hungry for blood.
Are you also hungry for blood?
Yeah,
Is that what the
I'm because peasants appears quite a lot in like my my abilities, and I kept reading it as pheasant. So after a while,
you like fried peasants' eggs.
Fried pheasants. Yeah, roast peasant.
Make sure that you when you're preparing the peasant, you take out all the buckshot.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, I don't know if the headless horseman would just stick it in his neck hole. Or does he actually eat it?
It just picks up the person whole and just jams them through this neck hole. Yeah. It does look a bit like warm in there, you know?
It does. It would probably roast a bit of good peasant.
You could just probably like shove someone down and like...
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, so this is the kind of premium content you subscribe for. Andrew, what did you think?
Yeah, very enjoyable actually. I didn't. It had the tension, but maybe not the sort of. It didn't feel unbeatable. Though there were a few touch and go moments. I felt that maybe my defense abilities were a little underutilized. I had 3 slots for them, so maybe it's probably going to be used a lot more in harder scenarios, perhaps. I did enjoy this one. It's very theme is just dripping all over the place, and it's got all the kind of dungeon crawl feels. And again, you might not need to actually have your full concentration whilst playing it, because the upkeep isn't as bad. I mean, we made a couple of errors, but I think upon multiple plays, you'd get
ironed out.
Yeah, you'd get ironed out. So I enjoyed that one. Absolutely.
And as a co-op game, it's actually, I think, because I do think actually that you did hit on a good point there. I do think there's a lot of admin work for a game that sort of strikes me as a bit more of a sort of a light-hearted romp. I mean, a light-hearted romp than a sort of a. I mean, on the counterbalance, on the other end of this spectrum is something like Spirit Island, which is very, very crunchy.
That is super heavy.
Yeah, which is super heavy. This feels much lighter. You're only deciding how to spend 5 dice a turn, and that's pretty much all the decision making you do. And it's like, where do you move and who do you kill? But at the end of the day, there's not a lot of complex interactions, and it does feel like there's quite a lot of admin work to do, despite that simplicity. But I do think that because it's a co-op, it can kind of get away with that, because mistakes are much easier to fix in a co-op.
Yes.
Anything you missed is much easier to sort of retro. Or to implement a sort of a temporary fix, in a competitive game, that's a lot harder to do. Because
that's in nearly all dungeon crawler RPGs. There will always have that mistakes made, rewind kind of situation. That's pretty commonplace. And we didn't, say for a first run through, we didn't have too many of those that I usually would have.
And although it's not really a dungeon crawler, there is the Mage Knight, which is more of a deck builder, really. I suppose, and map adventure deck builder, but Mage Knight famously had rules in it for backseas. When you cannot backsee, and what happens to you if you mess up and you can't backsee.
No, that's funny.
Yeah, that's
I like that.
You wouldn't. It's very harsh.
What I mean is, I like that it's thought about it.
Maybe not on your first roll.
It knows that people are fallible.
It does. It does accept fallibility. So. I do really enjoy the theme of this game. I really like the fact that we get to be the spooky monsters, we get to set up the haunted house, it's being filled full of these mooks, and we're trying to kill them all, and I like how many of them there are. I like that it's like waves and waves of them, and we get to sort of tear ass through them, and at least the simple people are relatively easy to kill, which feels very sort of satisfying and thematic. Makes you feel like a badass monster.
I like the flip. That's the one thing I quite like about it. I like how normally it's the villagers trying to kill the monsters, and now we're the monsters trying to kill the villagers. I like that flip part of it. I don't know what this is. It's a tilting.
The traditional theme has been flipped.
Exactly. I can't work out whether if all the heroes are balanced. It seems like this.
You mean the monsters?
Yeah.
Because those are the heroes.
See, I like this. I know that's confusing me.
We are not good people in this game.
We are terrible monsters. We murdered so many people.
So we have played this twice in practice, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
And I felt this has probably been the easiest attempt that we've had.
No, the first game we played was the easiest.
That was only because it was a
baby mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it medium level as well? Or?
No, it was hard. So this was a medium level campaign, but I actually felt like this erred on the side of easier for the medium. And I'll tell you why, because we shut down one spawn point very quickly, and because all of the spawns, it only ever got up to tier 2. And even then, only after there was only one spawn point remaining. So I did feel like this particular scenario definitely erred on the easier side of the scenarios.
Yeah.
And we did implement pretty much all the rules to make it more, not necessarily more difficult. The troll is kind of ambivalent because he could make it easier or harder.
He definitely helped us out a lot.
He helped us out in this one. We got quite lucky. But the day and night die obviously make it harder, and you don't need to play with those. You can just take them out and play with black dice instead, so there's no day and night cycle. And then experience is gained at a normal rate all the time instead, and you don't have to pay experience. But I like the day and night cycle because it makes it feel thematic, you know? Yeah. It makes it feel like, oh, it's daytime now, as the spooky monsters were going to be less effective.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I did like it. I found it, like you say, I like the waved part of it. It reminds me a lot of Dead of Winter, when the zombies, you have these wave of zombies. Or is it City of Horror?
Both have waves of zombies showing up at the end.
But it's the flip reverse that. It's the waves of goodies. But it felt like, and maybe it's just because it's
I just had the funniest idea when you talked about Dead of Winter. Sorry to interrupt you. But it's like, what if this had a traitor mechanic where one of you was a hero all along? And then like at the end, it's like Doulahan puts his head back on. And he was like, I was alive the whole time!
Come at me! So yeah,
Grimloid, give me ideas, Grimloid. That's trademark. Send me a commission.
Yeah, we can have an expansion with the traitor mechanism. Right? That would be. I don't know if that would
be. So I did interrupt you.
Oh, what was I saying?
It's like a reverse Scooby-Doo ending, isn't it?
I love Scooby-Doo. Okay, I've totally forgot what I was saying.
Crime-solving monsters. Crime-causing monsters.
Talk about waves.
Yeah.
Well,
it's totally gone. No.
I like the scenario setup. I like that there's 5 levels that are sort of an ongoing campaign. It's a bit of a shame, and it's really designed to teach you the game. I don't think the game is complex enough.
Oh, that's
Well, I don't think the game is. We'll come back to you. I don't think that the game is necessarily complex enough to warrant 5 gameplays in order to teach you all the rules.
No.
I feel like you could sort of pick it up after 1 or 2 games. But, if you do want to go through that campaign mode, one of the benefits of it is that each time you start with more abilities, so you could learn the heroes quite well, gradually unlocking their abilities and how to use them better. But it does also give you 5 scenarios where you don't, where you start sort of the full game from the get-go, like this one. Do you remember it?
Yep.
Great. What is it?
I was going to say, I don't know if it's just because it's a medium, and it might link into the point that you're making, but it felt like it was meaty enough without being frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely a few moments where we were like, oop, we got to sort this mess out, but then we were able to do so.
Because you can play some of these games, and it just feels unbelievably difficult, and it's like, I'm getting 0 enjoyment out of this because it's too hard.
Well, I mean, the one thing that I can, if I were, maybe it was just the characters we bait, but we didn't really feel, I don't think anyway, that our characters comboed well together. We didn't. There wasn't one thing, I think, by the sheer exception of me being a little bit stronger and therefore the first to be sent out, you can say I don't think that there was, that we could combo together. that much. We were pretty much playing our own game as far as characters go, right? That's what I felt.
Yeah, I felt that too, Andrew, actually. I was expecting a lot more interplay between the different classes. And Michael's support class basically did zero support. It was just sort of running around murdering, which is basically what we were all doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was... Because there's in the core set, there's 5 monsters. There's a 6th monster Kickstarter exclusive. And then there's, I think, 3 expansion packs, each of which comes with 2 more monsters. So there's potential to get a lot more monsters and potentially seek out these combos. But I really think that the 5 that come in the core set should combo well together. And although we haven't played a lot of the different combinations, so we couldn't tell you whether or not there are better or worse combinations, I do feel like... if they were here, they didn't... And we picked these because we thought they would combo quite well.
Yeah,
together.
maybe.
So, I don't know if maybe we were just not utilizing the combos or not seeing them, or maybe it's just a lot lighter on that front. It really does encourage you to sort of split up. So, then it's quite hard to use abilities like Michael's that heal you for being in the same zone.
Yeah. We were very rarely in the same spot throughout the whole game. I say it's not a fault, not a deal breaker by any means, but it would have been nice to see some interaction between her as a co-op game. You utilizing my weaknesses, and me boosting yours and stuff. So something like that.
But I think maybe it was also the nature of the objective in this campaign.
Yeah.
Because we were running these tokens up the map, which is not a typical objective. The game has many different modes. Like we said, 10 different scenarios in the core set, and then another 4 that come with the Horrors of the Sand expansion. So, and I'm sure there's plenty more up on the Grimoire Games website, actually, that you can probably find. Cool. I think they're putting out some sort of competitive play type scenarios where your people compete to see how well they can do as well. So, lots more options for scenarios and play. But I enjoyed rolling the dice. I like the level up mechanic. That's fun.
Yes. I like how you get to pick as well.
Yeah. Combat system's nice and simple. You say your upgrades are easy to understand, and you do remember that you have them. Well, I try to for the most part. Again, it could have been a lot more admin heavy, which I'm grateful it wasn't.
It is quite. It does feel quite admin heavy though when you're going through each stages.
Yeah,
like the villager stage.
There's a lot of phases.
Do this, then do this, then do this, and that is probably one of my. Reading through the rulebook took a long time, and there's a lot to remember. But once you get in there going with it, it's It
would have been enormously helpful to have a playwright.
Very true.
The only player
and a troll player.
So. Yeah. The troll reactions. Yeah,
I could have just remembered those ones, but yeah, I know what you mean. Absolutely.
But it wouldn't be nice to have a reminder on the table. There is a rule summary, but it's on the back of the rule book, and then you also kind of have to have the scenario page open so you can remember what things like the room effects do.
Yeah.
It's just there's quite a lot of load for the simplicity of the game, and I think actually because it moves at quite a clip pace and it is quite simple, that actually kind of encourages you to sort of
potentially miss something.
Forget things in a way. I find like because I'm more sort of excited about throwing the dice and killing villagers, and I just kind of rush the rest of it. But I do really and to its credit, coming back to the theme, which I do really like. And I do like that they went sort of really into the scary art on the monsters. I like that they're scary and spooky. I like the models. They're great. The sculpts are really, really good. I think that the printing is high quality. I like that they're different sizes. I like the attention to detail on the villagers. They all feel sort of like manic people out to get you.
Yeah, they could have just had one sculpt for all the villagers, but there's a few there. And
there's 4 different sculpts.
They're really nice. Yeah,
I think 4.
Production quality is really off the charts in this.
Yeah, it's really well detailed, and that's really cool. And the boards are nice and thick. It's not flimsy at all. And everything's double-sided as well, which means that there's lots of different sort of setups you can do, potential board setups you can do, which is cool. I thought that this was really funny because there's this villager morale mechanic which is barely used in any of the scenarios, at least in my experience. but there's plenty of options for objectives and things like that, different ways to end the game, which gives it variety. Replayability, yeah. Lots of replayability. And the great thing is, because I suspect that Grimlord will continue to produce scenarios, which means that, once you buy it, the game will continue to expand even if you purchase no further products, which is good, if you're into it, and you want to sort of keep trying different and new things with it. I like the traps. Traps are cool.
Yeah, I like the traps.
Traps are cool, yep. Annoyed me when they managed to sidestep it though.
Yeah,
that corner. I was like, that was gonna potentially.
I feel the toss of a coin very clumsy though.
Yeah, the coin flip happens a lot, and I feel like it might have been easier to just roll a die.
Yeah, one custom dice for that would have been not a huge ask. But it could have been worse. They could have used a spinner.
Oh yeah.
Shudder.
We're not a fan of the spinner.
To be fair though, I mean the coin flipping mechanic is actually not bad if you can actually do it though. Like saying.
Hello.
But yeah, I know.
Check out the videos for that.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It is a bit clumsy, and I think in this day and age, you can think of something a little bit better.
I mean, the thematic part of it, I get, and so that's probably why it's in there. It's like, ooh, toss the coin, and now you're gonna get heads, or you're gonna get tails.
Yeah,
but it just seems very clumsy.
For a 50-50 part, you can do so much with that. But again, not huge.
I mean, if you do want to circumvent it, and you're not using the knight die, you could always just say claws or arranged, because this is a 50-50 die, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. No, flip the coin.
It is very satisfying. It's weighty, It's a first player marker.
It's very chunky.
As well. It's really cool. I like this coin.
It's a good coin.
Fan of that.
Yeah, I would like. I think also there's some potential for more sort of modular. Well, I know that there's more stuff that is in Horror of the Sands, so you may take a look at that, which is very cool. But there's lots of potential for sort of more modular expansions. I like the idea maybe of like monsters that bring their own dice to the table or something. I don't know what the monster expansions are like, but I think that there's lots of scope for more growth here as well, which is cool.
I think the core set does give you, is a good starting point, I think. And if, granted, if you've played the base set a couple times, if they make the, say, more complex villagers actions, for example, that wouldn't be too difficult to take on once you've played the Sioux a couple of times. And I think that's where they're going with it.
Well, in every expansion that comes with a monster or two, I don't know how many they actually come with, comes with a new town hero as well with more rules.
Okay.
So that's cool.
Excellent.
So you get extra stuff for that. And you can always add those in. You can actually, the premise is that this deck just has to have the same number of each color. So you could have, instead of having 5 like this, you could have 10, provided it was 2 of each color.
Okay.
And that would add some more variability, possible danger. You could get 2 town heroes out who are the same nemesis in a row. But that's cool. So that means you'll have it'll be less time before you see the same one again.
Yeah.
We've only got we've got more stuff in Horror of the Sands that we haven't even looked at.
Yeah, that's true. Would you recommend people buying this though, I suppose? Is it or is there other dungeon crawlers that might be?
Would I recommend people buying this? Well, I don't think it's not really a dungeon crawler.
Yeah, that's misleading because it's like that implies that you open up new areas and kicking down doors. It feels a little bit like that because you're grinding through room to room. Because it's a small board, but it is quite hard to get across it. Especially if you've only got two movement points for me anyway. Obviously the Banshee's a little bit faster. So it does take a long time, and you feel it's got that grinding feel of a dungeon crawl, but it is a straight up co-op.
It's a straight co-op, and it's not. I mean, in a sense, we are the monsters of the dungeon crawl, but actually, there's only 3 of us, and it's a tower defense basically.
Yeah.
Except the towers are traps, really, and monsters. We are the towers, and we move around. I don't really know what you'd call this. It feels like a cross between a tower defense and a MOBA, really. Except a MOBA only in the sense that you have lanes with critters. I guess the town heroes are kind of like the equivalent of the enemy heroes to an extent. But I don't know a lot of tower defense games. You've actually played more than me. You've played Orcs, and Bad Bones.
Yeah.
And you weren't a big fan of either of those.
No, I mean it's I think what this game did a little bit differently is that because tower defense by definition is all about the waves part of it, and therefore when that happens, it can feel a little bit repetitive. What set this game apart maybe a little bit differently, nothing wrong with those other games, but it felt because there was a lot more variety in the enemies that come towards you. There was definitely things that were unexpected. They all had special abilities that were manageable, but just added something a little bit different. And I think the troll adds that random factor that's kind of needed a little bit. I say we were lucky in that it helped us a lot, but it does kind of just messes up your plans a little bit, just enough, but not enough to to ruin it for me. Because something like that, I think I was worried about this troll the troll mechanism, just because I thought it would just run havoc, just break it a little bit and make it a little bit lean to work against us a little bit too much. It didn't seem to. It was just right. Yeah. So I think that's why I think I would recommend this one perhaps over in that genre.
It is balanced for 3 players, which I quite like. I do think that the balancing mechanics they've put in to play with more or less than 3 monsters are not great. They seem very sort of like simplistic. I think that adding extra monsters or taking monsters away might make it
we noticed that
too difficult.
With the practice, didn't we?
When we were playing with 2 monsters.
And a particular scenario. Because it hindered that scenario, didn't it? Yeah,
it really sort of limited our options having 2 monsters. And I think that... actually, if I was going to play it with 1 or 2 players, I'd be like, just play with 3 monsters and then just share the third one, collaborate more on it. And then if you wanted to play with 4 people, you could, but I think it would make it easier. So you'd have to like really ramp up the difficulty, pick a really hard scenario, add in the day and night phase as well. Because basically the way they manage it is they just say, take one of these cards and add or subtract to these numbers of spawns.
Okay.
Which is not really great because it's about more than that. Having fewer monsters really limits your board positioning and your board placement, and that can be huge, especially depending on the scenario you're playing and the objective. And then having more monsters kind of does the same thing. It gives you access to a lot more versatility in terms of placement and abilities. So I don't think it's like I said, I think actually playing a really difficult scenario with 4 would be quite interesting. But I do think you have to be aware that adding another monster might make it a lot easier. But I mean, I think with 3 is a good number. 3 is a good co-op number. I like 3 as a co-op number.
I think it works well with 3. Having our practice with 2, I can see it worked a lot better with having 3, definitely. I like it. Grand statement. I think it's very accessible to everybody as well. I like it how it's semi it's not difficult to pick up. It's the admin is the hardest bit, which you've already said, but I think it's very accessible to all players.
Well, and that's one of the cool things about that is that if you've got a person who owns the game or who's played before, and or if it's you can just kind of take over the admin and let the other players kind of just have fun running around and throwing dice.
Yeah.
So it really, I think, facilitates bringing along a couple of friends that might not be hobby gamers or have as much experience with a game that's as big as this. I wouldn't say it's complex necessarily. I think actually it's not that complex. You just got to make sure that you don't try and play the whole game on your own.
Yeah. Don't take over too much.
Yeah,
I mean, in a strange roundabout way, it's almost a family game. Yeah. If you were to sort of play it like that, and I think the theme isn't so grisly that you couldn't not.
Granny could play this.
Yeah, well, maybe not, but as I say, if you were having like a teenage crowd, for instance, then there would be no problems with it. I don't, the artwork is quite, gruesome in that, but as I say, thematically, you don't feel like you're doing horrific things and an evil act, So I think it works in that sort of way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So maybe we will see more village attacks. We might...
the expansion.
Yeah, maybe we'll have another go and see if we can just wrap
Leave a
up
comment
the
to see if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, what did you think of village attacks? And would you care to see more of it? Maybe with the Horror of the Sands expansion.
Michael is the worst regenerator ever.
Michael is the worst heal. Michael healed 0 people.
Yeah.
Support character provided 0 support.
Yeah, and maybe in future, if you're up for seeing somebody delegated as the coin flipper of it,
Yeah.
let us know.
What we could have done was got one of the coins out of Tainted Grail and just given it to Andrew to hang on to.
For luck.
Yeah. Just so he could have flipped every time. And then we all would have been a lot less anxious.
Well, particularly when you were doing it.
Yes, I was the one that was the worst.
Oh, I'm just remembering that.
I'm saying nothing.
When you threw it and it hit the cup.
Complete accident. Total accident.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Although I was just throwing it all over the room.
Cool.
I never quite achieved the mileage you achieved.
Exactly. I don't do things by halves.
I'm all in. Get out of here. Get out of here. Good. Yeah, and also I think this would actually look really cool painted.
Yes, true.
I like the Hunter minis. The Hunter minis are actually really excellent.
Yeah, they look really different and cool.
Some more cool minis. Yes. Cool. We'll be back for a completely different adventure tomorrow. Thank you very much for coming on this one with us. And I hope you've enjoyed Village Attacks and our rundown and, would like to see more of this stuff. So if you do want to see more, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below so Andrew knows that he should come back and play more games.
Exactly. Maybe not so long next time.
Maybe not. So. Awesome. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See ya. Bye.